from a land in chains, to a boat we lie in decay and filth. Only those strong and least resistant make it to the new land. Bodies sold and worked like machines, women raped to only give birth to so-called abomination, children ripped from their mother's breasts, only to repeat this wretched cycle, over and over again. Hundreds of years later, we wake up and sweat, questioning when will I be next? Walking through the limp swinging bodies, upon the branch, just to and fro, the branch in which they should have found shelter. One night later, I wake up and sweat. I look out the window but see nothing but flames. No longer can see the stars to hear my wish to only vanish from this never-ending nightmare. Waking in sweat, staring into flames, wondering, am I next?
Decades later, it's forced upon me to realize my abundance of melanin warrants me to lack currency and property. My abundance of melanin tells me I cannot dine at the finest or just be regulated to a corner by the trash. My abundance of melanin deems me unworthy to cling to dignity. My abundance of melanin seeks to be released, re-released from these invisible chains. I watched that video again. It is just so hard to watch, but I force myself to. As I am writing you this, my throat is all choked up. I can barely breathe. The tears are building, but are too angry to release. Again? Why again? Is one not more than enough? Why continue these scorching torturing? I can't breathe. How much louder can we scream? How much louder? They do not hear. They do not want to.
Wow. That poem is by actually our guest today, Yanique Slaney. Thanks, Yanique.
I got shivers.
I know.
Got the chill,
It's
girl.
good. Throughout our friendship, I've been able to hear some of her poems and read her poems, and they're always really friggin' moving, honestly. I love them.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So, welcome to Not in Our Will.
Welcome.
Welcome. I'm Danny.
I'm Steph.
And today we have a very exciting but very deep and I'm hoping a very educational conversation. We have our guest, Yanique.
Hello.
Welcome.
Welcome. Yanique and us, we're going to dive into the color and talk about the experiences she has as this beautiful black woman in front of us.
Why, thank you.
and just kind of just have an open discussion about what she goes through and the differences and what we don't see and how we can be just better allies and friends and neighbors and whatever to each other. Next week, what's our next week?
We're doing intelligence, so we're going to be talking about careers and how women, we're kind of forced to either choose between being a parent and a caregiver or doing school, and how our generation tries to navigate that right now because it's changing, and how we both have taken different paths in terms of our career and our life choices and the intelligence that we needed in order to do so.
Yeah.
So
we'll dive into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do an IQ test.
IQ test. Oh God!
Oh, there's a long history with the IQ tests.
Oh gosh.
Sordid history.
History. So, Yanique, my sweet, sweet neighbor. So this is my neighbor. We've been friends for a few years now.
Mm-hmm.
We have kids that play together.
Yep.
We got just a great neighborly bond that we don't knock anymore. We just walk on in.
Yeah, just walk right in.
Walk right on in.
Family now.
You're family now. So, thanks for coming. I know
thanks for having me.
Scary and I don't know, I don't know what
it is. A bit nerve-wracking, yes.
Yeah. But we on the other hand are also a bit nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked openly about this, that we want to make sure we do you justice and do the very bare minimum that we can do. We hope that we can get something out of today. We hope that we change somebody's mind. We hope we open some new perspective for people. Mm-hmm. So That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah,
today.
yeah. We just want to try and be the best ally as possible.
Yeah.
And you know what? That's what someone like myself all we could ask for is just to be heard.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
And have somewhat of an understanding and even empathy.
Yeah.
Sympathize with what is going on.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And not keep our head in the sand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly it. And I know I'm bad for that in a lot of ways, but that's not just racial, it's just with everything sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Like I don't want to.
Sometimes it's easier to put on the blinders and be like, can't see, don't want to see, but we're all humans. We're all spinning on the same goddamn planet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just get along.
Yeah.
We're all the same. We're all the same. We all have struggles, but I think we need to have empathy and understanding for everybody around us.
Yeah.
And I think if we did, the world would be a little bit
of
a better place.
Oh, for sure. As Jane Elliott would say, there is only one race, and that is the human race.
Yes, absolutely.
Preaches to that. I love that.
Yeah, it's so true. So true.
Okay, so tell us a bit about your upbringing, like, or where you came from. Just let us know.
Okay, so so I immigrated from Jamaica in 1990 when I was 7 years old. Yes, I'm 39 now.
If you're
as of
lucky,
January 20th.
Yeah, she looks younger than us.
Yeah.
Like way younger.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, you guys.
I know they say it, and Yanique, bear with me here, but black people age
so well.
So well. Girl, I wish. Yeah.
Oh.
So you're stunning.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay.
I grew up. We moved to Scarborough and then moved back and forth. A majority of my life between Scarborough and North York. And I moved out of there when I got married.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you got married, and who's your lovely husband?
My lovely husband is Scott Slaney. We have two beautiful, amazing children, Alexander and Caleb. They are identical twin boys.
Oh my goodness.
They are.
Listen,
I have my own sons, and I love my sons, but these kids are so freaking cute.
Actually, I remember when you first met them, Danny just stared at them. She's like, they are
She's gonna steal your
gorgeous.
I just might. Well, they're beautiful. So explain, where's your husband from?
So my husband is Canadian. Grew up in Halton region.
Mm-hmm.
And we met actually through online dating, Plenty of Fish.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, you got some luck, girl, because I have not had any of that. So,
He was well vetted.
Yeah. So, and Scott's background is English, Scottish,
Irish.
It was
Yep.
one of those.
And also has actually quite very interestingly, one of his ancestors was one of the first black doctors to graduate from UFT.
Wow.
really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Oh
Yeah,
yes,
he's
and
got a
his
very
mother
rich
wrote a
history.
book.
Really?
Yes. Oh yes, very rich history.
You found a keeper.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you have biracial sons.
Yes, I do.
Now her sons, if you don't mind, I would love to describe your beautiful little boys.
Please do, yeah.
They are gorgeous. So they have very light skin.
Mm-hmm.
They have, for me, and I know you and I, you don't agree with me sometimes, but I think they have very black features.
Mm.
But they have piercing blue eyes.
Oh my
They
goodness.
have black texture hair,
Mm-hmm.
but blonde. Like when I tell you, they are like a really beautiful mix.
Yeah.
Between both cultures.
Yeah.
Oh, girl, they're so cute.
Oh,
They're so cute.
I love it.
So how do you do with now? Like I have sons as well. We both have two boys. They're around the same age, but
Yeah.
I don't have to deal with the whole black white. Like my kids are just, here you go. You're Canadian. You got some Italian in you. Like go on.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? Like what do you need to do as a black woman, but also a person in a biracial like relationship,
Interracial,
interracial. Sorry,
okay.
like what do you do? Like, what's the difference?
Before when we originally started, when we were dating, it was one of the things that I had to have a discussion with him about how would we raise our kids if we were blessed with children, because they wouldn't have they're not in a single cultural household.
Right.
So it's one of my greatest fear was that they would push away from the black side.
Right. They would lose part of
yes.
either or. Yeah.
Or not even want to be.
Right.
Right. And would prefer to identify more with their white side.
Right.
That was one of my greatest fear.
Yeah.
And I don't want them to carry around that burden of self-hate or wanting to distance themselves because of what the negative connotations or messaging that comes along with being black.
Yeah.
Right. So my husband and I had those discussions, and what we came across is that they're not going to have the same experiences as he did.
Right.
They're not going to have the same experiences as I did. They're going to have their own experiences and journey that they would have to go through in their own skin.
Right.
And so we said, like, the only thing we can do is have them appreciate everything that everything about themselves, you know, both sides. They're half Jamaican, right? And we actually wanted to expose them more to the Jamaican culture and the black side because they're already immersed in white culture.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right? So that comes...
live in a very predominantly white,
yes.
not even neighborhood, just region itself.
Region, and in their schools, it's all,
yes.
Yeah.
And then just,
Everywhere,
we did have, like, even one of the boys, one of the boys had asked me at one point, "Mommy, why do you look different?" And I said, "What do you mean, baby?" He's like, "Are you dirty?" And that broke my heart.
Oh my gosh.
It broke my heart.
Yeah.
And so it's like, what do you say to a 5-year-old?
Yeah.
And have them understand.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I mean, it's like, not like as if I don't talk about it because my husband and I talk about it openly all the time. But they're too young. They're in their own little world, right?
Absolutely.
But it was heartbreaking for me, and that was it reinforced that initial fear I had. Right? Just growing up around, like, with other biracial children, colorism within the black community is very strong. And it's this anti-blackness that is huge, unnecessary, but it exists.
It does exist, unfortunately,
Right? And it's like, how do we overcome that? How do I teach my kids to love? Just love.
Because honestly, that's as simple as it could be. It doesn't need to be all of this noise. It's just love.
Just love.
You know, this episode's gonna get to me, honestly.
I know.
So we touched on just living in a primarily white region itself. So is there anything in specific that you do to instill the like to show and educate and your sons or even your husband? Like, your husband is very, like, he's knowledgeable. He works in the international department.
Yes.
So, I don't know. He changes.
Yeah.
He's up and down. He's all over. But he works the international. So Scott is very passionate about this, just as much as
very
you are.
much so.
Which obviously works very well for you guys, because you guys are this, like, power force of just wanting to spread knowledge, love, and
understanding.
and it's like, you two as a team is just wonderful. And
Thank you.
And your neighbor, I was saying to Yanique that, like, I'm a very open person. I'm very understanding person. And I am aware of my white privilege, but I was not aware of my white privilege.
No, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like, it wasn't until her and I started having these deeper discussions.
I remember the Black Lives Matter conversation about, like, oh, but all lives matter.
Right.
And what did you say?
Oh, fuck, I don't remember now.
When you were trying to explain it to someone else about the houses, like about burning houses, homes and stuff like that.
Yeah, and because I remember our, I don't know if you know this actually, but one of our neighbors came up to me during that time and mentioned, like, their husband was on Facebook going off preaching the all lives matter to the Black Lives Matter.
I don't know which neighbor that was, but okay.
I don't want to, like, if you want to know, I'll tell you the tea in the car, but, but
neighborhood drama.
Right?
We got that. No. But, and I look back on it and I'm upset at myself for not sticking up the way I should have in that moment. Because I just kind of want to be like, and just be like, okay, I obviously didn't feed into it because I don't agree with that. And if you don't understand, if you were still at a point in 2022 and not understanding why the all lives matter argument to a Black Lives Matter situation, and you don't get why that's not okay,
some research.
You need to do some research. You need to educate yourself.
Educate yourself.
Because yes, obviously all lives matter, people. We get that.
Yeah.
But it's not about that.
No, it has nothing to do with that.
No, like, we need to focus on these minorities that honestly aren't really minorities anymore.
No.
Like, they are, like, we have Black, Asian, like, there's so many different cultures around us that we are just, like, turning a blind eye to for some fucking reason, and it's just stupid.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we just, anyways, but... Yeah, so I was upset at myself for not sticking up for my friends, my neighbors, my ally, my people that I should be sticking up for in that moment. And I look back on it, I'm like, I'm so stupid. I should have said something. But I do understand that when you try to get in an argument with someone that doesn't understand, you're fucking fighting with a wall,
you can't
man.
reason with somebody whose way of thinking, they think it's the best way, right? They're not educated enough to at least have the open mind, right? To have that conversation. A lot of people are just like, nope, this is how I think, this is all lives matter, this is that. I'm a good person. Like, no.
It's when it comes to racism, discrimination, it's very difficult conversation to have. Think about if somebody was to talk misogynistic comments,
absolutely,
right? In regards to women, right? So you understand what women go through in general, right? Because you are a woman.
Yeah.
You've experienced it, afraid to walk at night to your car. Right. Does a man fear that?
No.
And being raped?
Yeah.
Is that something that crosses their mind all the time?
Exactly.
Is somebody going to slip a drink, something in their drink? Stuff like that. And to argue with a man who doesn't see any of that,
never
because
had that same experience. They would never. They're not living inside that body, right?
So is it just that it's because we don't experience it ourselves? We're just so, like, we don't just give a shit. Like, not my
when you
problem.
don't have nuance, when you don't see it, when you don't hear it, it's very hard to connect things in your mind to get a picture, right?
Yeah.
It's like asking a blind person, what color is yes, right?
Absolutely.
So it's this is where systemic racism comes in, right? There are what you see on TV, right? You'll see something like ratchet black. Okay, a lot of black actresses, for instance. You'll see what kinds of roles they get. Right.
Absolutely.
So and even you have a wide range of black women, biracial women, multiracial, or racially ambiguous. They will get a black female role over an actually like a black darker skinned complected woman like a Viola Davis, right? And a Viola Davis would get a role like in Help,
Yeah.
the help.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, you're either the maid, the drug addict,
Yeah.
the gangbanger's girlfriend,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
baby mama,
Yeah.
and then the love interest is the pretty blonde-eyed blue.
Yeah, blue,
Yes,
blonde, white girl. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And there's no representation of showing the dynamic of the Black community.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's so true. So true.
It's like it's all these things you honestly, we as white people just don't we don't see it as much as you do, like, and that's just it. And it's not, it's because we're so used to seeing this predominantly like white driven world that we're so blind to the fact that there's no like beautiful love story for a general public that is mainly Black characters. Like,
that's why Black Panther was so huge. It's so important
And super
around the
impactful.
world
Yes.
within the Black
Absolutely.
community.
It
And we
is.
went out and
Yeah.
we supported it.
Yeah.
Right? And it was one of the first superhero Marvel movie that brought in that kind of money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, more Marvel movies came in after and even made more, but that was one of the first.
Huge.
Absolutely huge.
Right?
For sure. So like, okay, so is there anything that you do like in our neighborhood? Because I don't know, I'm not out looking for Black owned businesses, or because it's not something that I need. So for you, like, is there availability, like is there access to things like that in our region? Or
It took me a while. And it's so funny. It was my husband that found it's the Afro-Caribbean Variety Store in Niagara Falls. A wonderful couple that owns it. They're a Nigerian couple. Shout out to Sophia and Jonathan. Amazing people. And I make sure like every Black person that comes in, I hand out that business card because it's very difficult for us to find even the food. Like I'm Jamaican, it's hard to find Jamaican food. To in order to cook and expose my children to.
Absolutely. You get if you go to a grocery store, you get the Americanized version of what they think your food is.
Yes.
Right?
Oh yes.
And funny enough, like there is an international section.
It's not though. It's the Americanized
It's sparse.
version.
And it's very sparse.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's only
Or sparse.
like
Sparse.
Yeah, right.
Tomato, tomato. It's all good. But it seems like even in that international section, it's a few Asian items and a few Mexican items. Like that's it. Like that's it.
So maybe
That's
get
what the
some
world-
jerk seasoning if you're lucky.
something.
Honestly, and speaking on
Oxtail,
that,
like I've learned about
the
oxtail.
new oxtail. That is actually oxtail and rice and peas is my favorite dish. But like a funny thing in regards to about access to groceries or beauty supplies.
Yes.
I remember when Walmart opened up at the Penn Center.
Yeah.
And
a mall near us. Just
and I remember going in looking for black hair product, just simple black hair product.
Yeah.
There was nothing, not one
Seriously.
item. And I was very upset.
Yeah.
And so I approached customer service and I just said, it is very disheartening considering that there usually is a little section,
there is,
but there wasn't one. And so I spoke to the general manager.
Walmart.
Yeah, it
Like
was.
that should have been put in.
It should have been. But it was an oversight. Again, representation matters, right?
And
but
us
they were
as a white person would never notice. And like that's a fucking problem. That's a problem.
yeah.
That is a problem.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah, we gotta be better.
And-
Jesus.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I spoke to one of the managers. I believe it was the general manager or assistant manager. I don't remember who.
Yeah.
But they dealt with it right away, and I appreciated so much how quick they were to correct that.
Yeah.
And within the next day or two, they had it up. They had it there. They had the products.
Good.
And because you want convenience as well. We shouldn't have to drive 20 minutes away
absolutely you
to
shouldn't.
get hair products.
Yeah.
What we can just buy at literally the dollar store.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Even
what I mean?
makeup was difficult for Black people for the longest time.
Oh, I
my God.
bet.
So considering like when Iman came out,
Yes.
like, because in order to get a right match, you had a variety of for white women for of foundation.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
You didn't have that for black women.
Yeah.
You probably
It was
got,
like,
like,
three.
three choices.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it was light, medium, and dark.
Yeah.
But then a lot of us have different undertones.
Absolutely.
Right?
Like we do. It's the same thing.
It's
Exactly.
the same thing, but it was an oversight.
Very
For
much
far
so.
too long, and still for a lot of companies are still an oversight.
And now it's
becoming-
it's so much better. Like, you have CoverGirl,
Yes.
L'Oreal. They now
Wasn't
have
it
like
Fenty
a
that started?
no, even before Fenty, but they even made it better.
Yeah.
Made it even better.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah.
Yeah.
It's all of these things. So far, my tidbits that I'm like, okay, when I go to a Walmart, when I go to a grocery store, when I go to things, don't just walk the aisles with an open eye.
Yeah.
So not just looking for yourself, look for everybody and see if there is
Is
inclusion.
it inclusive? Yeah.
Because if it's not,
That's
we
a
as a
problem.
white person can go and speak up for our black friends.
Yeah.
Like, that is
Yeah.
important, and to me, I'm like, I'm gonna pay more attention to
Me
that,
too.
honestly, because it was an oversight, 100% it's an oversight.
Yep.
But
Oh,
we
yeah.
were talking about this because I have curly hair, but I've never been able to understand how to maintain it. I was never taught. My mom totally did not. She just brushed it out. It was a big frizz ball. So now, as I'm getting older, I'm trying to embrace my curls. I'm trying to work with my curls. And you and I just had a conversation this morning about it, is that I'm at the point where I think I might go and venture into black hair products because they obviously know what they're doing. Like, they have beautiful, beautiful fucking hair, and they're very curly.
Yeah.
The tightest curl pattern, and I'm obviously not any
A variety.
like
You got the
Yeah,
tight
yeah.
curls, kinky. You
Right,
have
yeah,
loose curls.
that. And I just I'm like, obviously the white product ain't working for me, so let's. Somebody's doing something right over there, so I want to learn.
And you
it.
don't want to have to use heat on your hair all the
No.
time, right?
That is
And like
huge.
and it's so funny because people I remember people making comments about the silk bonnets, like being judgy on that, which is a very normal practice in a black home. It's to protect your hair.
Not just black home. They used to wear bonnets all the time.
True.
Oh,
That is
yeah.
true. But I'm finding that now, again, it's becoming more acceptable, and I see more people of different races using the bonnets, and of course now we're like, yeah, go for the bonnets, get the silk bonnets. So why is there always like that appropriation and that that it's okay now because white culture has taken it over? Like,
we take it now, so it's good.
It's good.
It's good.
Like, how the fuck does that feel like on your that must suck. That must feel awful.
It is frustrating.
Because you're like, bitch, we've been telling you this the
Yeah, for
entire
years.
time.
Very frustrating. We can talk about, like, from the 80s with Bo Derek. Is that her name?
Yeah.
For the longest time, when women were able to go into the workforce, black women, we had to whiten our features as much as possible, right? The afro was a no, or else you don't get a job. So chemically straightening your hair,
Yeah.
right, is the thing to do.
Yeah.
You had to look presentable.
Yeah.
And then having to do protective hairstyles like braids and cornrows and stuff like that, that was a big no. Having dreadlocks or locks,
That was a no-no.
a huge no. And criticized and ridiculed and demeaned for something that was a part of our culture for generations upon generations upon generations. Even during slavery, our hair was cut off, and because you're attracting white men, right, with the elaborate hairstyles and braids. So we started wrapping our head in scarves, and now beautiful scarves and beautiful different kinds of head wraps, and then that also became a problem. So I mean, it's like, what is it that we
What can we do right? Kids are getting their hair cut off, getting suspended today for having braids or or dreadlocks and stuff like that. Oh yeah.
That is not
Till this day, you know, especially in the States.
do better, humans. Jesus.
And I find this, I feel the same thing when it comes to about the hijab and the burqa. It's like, oh, you're in this country, so you shouldn't
Take
wear
it
that.
off,
You
yeah.
need to take it off. And it's like, who are you?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Yeah.
You
know
have
what?
no right.
Exactly. We are all from, at one point, a different fucking place, people.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah, Christians used to wear veils
Yeah.
and cover their hair
I'm
and
sure
stuff
that's
like
still
that.
fine.
And there's a history
probably.
behind wearing the burqa and or the hijab.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would say, like, some women find it empowering to wear that.
Yeah.
And some choose not to
Yeah,
wear it.
yeah.
So for some it's a choice, and for some because of religious purposes they
Yeah,
do
yeah.
and stuff like that. I'm not an expert on that, but this is just a little bit I've heard from friends of mine that are Muslim.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting conversation and topic.
Oh, absolutely.
So I find it very interesting that it's okay to tell other people how to dress, how to look,
yeah.
but when it comes to non-people of color, you're infringing on my rights.
Right.
yes.
And if you're a woman, you know, telling you what to do with your body,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
And I actually don't get it.
Yeah.
I really try to understand it, and a lot of it does have to do with fear, ignorance, and ignorance is one of the driving force of fear. Right? Just think of when you're a kid and you're afraid of the dark because you're afraid of the monster underneath your bed. You don't know any better because you've seen a movie and you don't realize that, you know, hey, that's not real.
Yeah. It's the fear of the unknown and not having
Fear of the unknown.
The fear of the unknown and not having the intelligence to, you know, wrap your mind around it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Right?
it's also what is put in your face, the rhetoric that
Yeah,
gets thrown
yeah,
out there. Think about like
exactly.
what happened after 9/11. The first thing I said, it was 2001. So how old was I? I was 18 at the time. After seeing that, I was in OAC, yes, grade 13. And the first thing I said, I hope they don't persecute every single Muslim person, and that behold, that is what
That's
happened.
exactly what
happened.
they did. Yeah.
100%.
But yet black people are expected, or Muslims, LGBTQ plus, like the minority, the disenfranchised, or where we have to sit back and take it and let and forgive. It's like, why is it that we as black people always have to be the ones to forgive and to educate?
Yeah.
Right? We're in a day and age where you can just type something in, Google it.
Yeah.
Google it.
Yeah.
You can YouTube anything. You don't, it doesn't have to be a master class. It can be a 5-minute video to
Yeah.
give you a quick understanding. You
Yeah.
have a question, look it up. And not just look up one source, look at different sources, different perspective.
Yeah.
Right? Not just from one perspective.
Absolutely. And I think it's honestly about having the conversation too. Like, I know it's scary to sit here for us as white women and to try to talk to you as an equal. You know what I mean? We are equals, but
Yes.
we're not. What you have gone through, we have never experienced. You know what I mean? So it's having
What,
the
you mean to tell me you've never been spat on and called the N-word?
never,
No.
right?
That did happen to me.
Yeah.
It's
See,
ridiculous. And it's just trying to have the conversation, even if it's hard. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? That Danny and I kind of wanted to really reiterate that it's not an easy conversation to have.
No.
But you know what? At the end of the day, we're gonna make great friends out of this, and we're gonna have a mutual understanding, or at least we're gonna try our best to have a mutual understanding and try and be your ally, try and be your friend, try and learn more, educate, and then from there, hopefully, we can do that for others.
What? Yeah. Well, you just pass it on. The little knowledge you gain,
you share it with the other people around you. You hear someone making a racist joke, you know,
Stop it.
you don't laugh, you don't sometimes just not laughing. It's like, oh, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know,
Make them think about it a little bit.
yeah. And you can, not to say to start a fight or something like that, but just let the person stop and think that,
Right.
you know what, this,
That's
I'm
not
not the
okay.
person to do that with.
Yes,
Right.
yeah,
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I make it a point that if anyone brings up anything in regards to negative, like even a fellow neighbor of ours brought up about indigenous community, about hunting, and that I don't know much about hunting or rights and all of that stuff, but it was brought to my attention that they get to hunt out of season and stuff like that. I'm not sure how true that is. I don't know anything about that, but my comment was that shouldn't they have all rights too?
Yeah. Yeah.
So much, everything, not so much, everything was taken away.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for you not to have the privilege to hunt any time of the year you want to,
Sorry, you can't hunt for 4 months out of the year.
mind you, in the on some of the within the communities, they don't even have access to clean water.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
we literally just had
we were,
talked
yeah,
about
I
this.
think this is something we should talk about too, right? Like with the whole Freedom Convoy thing happening right now. We did have a conversation about that because there's been so many different protests and so many things happening in the world. Like with the Black Lives Matter movement, and then we have the indigenous community with no clean water.
Look at the vitriol the Black Lives Matter movement had.
Yeah.
The protests. Look at the vitriol the indigenous community had when it
Exactly.
came to the pipelines.
Exactly. And now we're sitting here, and there's so many people who are believe what you want to believe, right? Like, no hatred if you want to speak up. That's your right. That's your freedom. But
And no one's stopping that.
nobody's stopping that.
But just recognize.
But the thing is, they were stopping it when it was these other communities, like the Black community, the indigenous community. You know what I mean? But now it's a predominantly white Freedom Convoy riot. It just doesn't.
protest.
Yeah,
however
it
they
doesn't
wanna
make
say it.
sense. It doesn't make sense to
And
me.
yeah, also let's not forget about when COVID first came out, the animosity, the hatred, the discrimination, the racism that the Asian community faced.
Oh my
Yes,
goodness, it was
absolutely.
huge.
And again, this is the lack of this is ignorance.
Yeah.
And not seeking out the
Truth.
the proper information,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Right.
So I mean, it is a sad world we live in, but it is the world we do live in. And it's
Yeah.
how do we navigate that world in a positive way.
So I'm gonna ask another question here. So with social media and let's maybe beauty standards and all that, there have been a lot of things that white people you see do that has been purely taken from Black culture, and it's appreciated in a white light, but not in a Black light. Why do we do that? Why are we doing that? And do you consider, like, if I wanted to wear my hair in braids, because I do wear braids sometimes, it's easy for me, and I like the style, and I have no reason to discriminate. That's not my purpose at all. It's genuinely, I just think it looks cute. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where's that line? Like, what can I do? Tell me a line. How do I?
I still struggle with an answer for that one. I wish that we lived in a world that we can do that and not have any backlash.
Right.
Right? Me personally, you as my friend, I wouldn't mind you doing it.
Right.
Right? You're not going to be going out there and monetizing off of it. It's the
Yeah.
monetization that
okay.
comes with it, right?
Right.
So, and the fact that when a black person, we were ridiculed, demeaned with our lips,
Yes.
right?
Right.
And now you see,
Everybody gets lip fillers.
getting lip fillers,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
right?
Everybody.
And doing the cornrows,
Yeah.
right?
Dreadlocks.
The
Yeah, like white people
dreadlocks,
with dreads. Like,
right?
Is that a fine? Is that like you should not be doing that, or is it more?
That's
like,
not that's not an answer I can give.
Yeah. No. I
Honestly,
mean, no, absolutely.
because
It's
I'm
all
a very fair person,
Yeah.
right? And I believe it. I believe hair is a
Yes.
artistic expression as well.
And that's how I feel
right?
about it too. So like,
Yes.
if I see that, I'm like, oh yeah, that looks great on you. You do you.
But,
some
yeah.
people may not see it that way.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
It's just a matter of like you look at Elvis Presley, king of rock and roll, but was he the one who started
No.
rock and roll?
You absolutely
Right? It
yeah.
was called the devil's music,
Yeah.
black
Yeah,
music,
exactly.
you know, but look at how many black artists before him who was doing it
Yes.
have nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Look at
And
was
there's
it
some of the
ain't nothing
greatest
but a
artists-
hound
yeah.
dog was by a black woman
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
originally sang it?
Yeah. If you listen to,
or
literally
yeah.
any of these songs, 9 times out of 10, it's from a black artist.
Justin
Fire.
Timberlake, jazz music, rock
Yeah,
and
yeah,
roll,
everything.
rap, hip hop,
Blues,
R&B,
jazz, yeah.
blues. All of those are rooted or started with black people, right? But yet you see even like rap music when it first came out, how it was seen.
Yeah.
And now you have someone like Machine Gun Kelly.
Don't even.
Sorry,
We're
just
not fans.
no,
We're
just
fans.
just
It's
just
fine.
as an example,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, it breaks my heart. And when I see these, it's like, hold on, but I grew up with, you know, that everything about me is disgusting, is
Yeah.
wrong,
Yeah.
and and this is just what I see,
Yeah.
you know. So to see someone, a person who is not black, who is rocking our style,
Yeah.
our swag,
Yeah.
our and making money off of our music,
Yeah.
i.e. Iggy Azalea,
Yeah.
and then someone like Queen Latifah back in the day, or
Love
you know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
it
I
wasn't.
know, I know. And then, like with Queen Latifah, she had to kind of transition into an acting role, right? But she always got those ratchet roles.
Yeah.
But she is so talented. Her music was absolutely amazing.
Great singer, great
Yeah.
rapper,
Absolutely amazing.
great
But
actress.
It went from, you know, she couldn't do everything that she wanted to do.
UNITY.
Yeah, like, it's so
In a
sad.
bubble.
So sad.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Back to the whole cultural
please.
appropriation thing. It's mostly about like how, again, how we were ridiculed and demeaned about something that is a part of us.
Yeah.
And then someone like Bo Derek, the Kardashians, Iggy Azalea appropriated it.
Yes.
The TikTok dance moves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, what are their names again?
The Velios, those people? What
Huh?
do you think about?
Like the one with, was it Savage Love, whatever the song is.
Oh, I know what you're
Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
So
yes.
it was
Yeah.
a black girl that started these dance craze moves,
Right.
but
Yep.
didn't make a dime. But
Yeah.
yet the girl who was skyrocketed made millions.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And the algorithm actually was purposely done to not have black people get to that level.
It is so true.
Even in technology, you can be like, okay, we'll just have the algorithm weed out the resumes or do the analyze the resumes. But what they don't know is that everything put into the database is being used on, okay, so the language being used, okay, this may be a female, oh, this person came from such and such, even without the name, but the way it's written, the language used, right, the way it's used in of itself is racist as well. It's discriminatory.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, it's kind of hard to fight an everyday situation that's happening when it's already embedded in the system.
It is. Yeah, it is.
It's embedded in the system.
And how do you beat the system?
Yeah, it's making it impossible
Yeah.
for anybody that's not white to succeed.
Absolutely.
Like, it's just purely
And it has been that way.
for so many years.
Yeah.
Do you I don't know what time we're at. We might start on that.
Well, when you talk,
But I was gonna ask though, do you nope. It wasn't.
You know what? It's okay. It's okay.
You know what? When we talk about something like that, we can talk about like intersectionality and misogynoir, where, you know, when women were the women had the rights to work and not be discriminated for being a woman, and then you had Black men had the right to work and not be discriminated for being Black. But then what about being discriminated for being a Black woman?
Yes.
Because there are certain kinds of jobs for men.
Yes.
And then there's the office secretarial jobs for women.
Right.
So white women were able to get their jobs as a secretary within the office.
Right.
Black men were able to get the job in the plant, in the on the factory line and stuff like that. So here's a Black woman who sues the company, and the judge throws it out. Why? Well, you can't say that they're racist because you have Black people working, and you can't say they're sexist because you have women working. So here's the intersectionality that Black women face, right? We're not being recognized, you know. And look at like you see, everybody knows about George Floyd, about Philando Castile. I sent you even some videos. Tamir Rice, Mike Brown, all of these guys. But how many Black women do we know that were brutalized by police? Like Sandra Bland, and then most recently Breonna Taylor, and even more recently, a body was found of a young Black woman, and no one knew about it.
Yeah, it's.
You don't hear about Black girls, little Black girls going missing.
Yeah. No.
You know, or women going missing. Same thing within the indigenous community, even still to this day. Right?
And
nobody.
Somehow that is not an issue. What? It's a huge issue.
The media, they don't put it out there because they don't think people care, and it's not sensationalized. And if it doesn't make the money, they're not going to put it out there. And this is the perception that we're putting out there.
It's bullshit.
Well, racism is driven by capitalism,
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
I do remember what I was going to ask. It was, do you see a future of I would love to say just total equality?
No.
I'm gonna have to agree. Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree.
Because even if you can, there will always be something that people will be discriminated against. Yeah. We can all be the same hue, but there will be some sort of different practices, right? You know, you have sex workers who are discriminated. You have
that's the thing.
even some men get discriminated. You have now you have transgender community. You have like anything that is not of the norm of the society that you live in. Right. There will be some sort
of. Am I wrong in saying that I've been noticing a lot more, or am I just totally naive? But I've been noticing a lot more. Bringing to light the LGBT, and that being more praised, and us accepting, Black communities accepting, indigenous communities accepting. Like, I'm seeing a lot more acceptance than I did 5-10 years ago, and a lot more means for accountability. Like, people are really pulling. But
there will always be pushback.
There's always going to be pushback.
Let me.
Better, please, Yanique.
So. I don't want to burst your bubble, but I'm going to burst your bubble. I'm sorry for using the U.S. as an example, but it is one of the most loudest and it's more populated than Canada, and a lot of things are being more exposed, are more exposed in the U.S. So I can use it as an example. And Canada tends to not follow too long after, right? But if you look at certain states where they're banning books written about Martin Luther King, about Rosa Parks, even a book called Mouth, Maus, which deals with the Holocaust.
Okay.
So they're banning these books out of libraries. Teachers apparently, they're even trying to pass laws where teachers can be sued for teaching about making American history look bad, right? So they don't
They're
want
not telling the truth.
they don't want the full truth. They just want,
It's the accountability,
yes,
right? They don't want to take the accountability of like, this is what we did.
Mm-hmm.
This is history. This is what happened.
But if you don't know your history, you will deem to repeat it.
Exactly.
Or
If you're
may not
learning
repeat
about
it, but it will, as a Beau of the Fifth Column would say, rhyme. It will rhyme.
Yeah.
But people don't understand how important learning one's history is.
It is.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Absolutely.
Right?
Because you're going to always have the good and bad and the ugly.
Yes. And
We
if you,
get it. I mean,
that's the only way you can make changes, and you
Yes,
got to learn from it, or
exactly.
else, like, what I don't think people understand by banning these books is that they are bringing to fruition their own fear, right? Because now you're leaving a group of people uneducated. Where are they
Yeah.
going to go from there?
yeah.
What when you go out into the real world, everybody else is far ahead.
Yeah.
But you are so far back because
Yeah.
you've taken
Yeah.
away means
Yeah.
for people to get out,
Yeah.
for people to do better.
progression
The
that we've
progression,
had.
yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
So interesting. My God, we could be here forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's the whole point.
Yeah.
This conversation does need to happen forever and ever and ever.
always.
It can't
and
stop.
ever.
It can't.
It can't.
It's not, and we obviously we chose. It's Black History Month, February. We're ending it off with a discussion.
The shortest month of the year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
what the fuck, right?
You know.
That's a running joke.
Yeah. But it's important to have these discussions on a constant basis. I try very hard to educate my sons on everything.
You
Mental
won't get the
illness.
school to do it.
No,
Exactly,
but that's
yeah.
exactly it. On color, on mental illness, on disease, on death. Like I am very open with my sons. It is my job as a parent to educate these human beings that literally know nothing other than what we teach.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do my job as a parent and a human being to teach and instill in my sons to be good humans. Good boys, good men for their future partners, good allies for their minorities, which are, again, not really minorities. Like, we need to stop calling them a fucking
Empathy.
minority.
Yeah.
As a collective, no longer a minority,
Right, yeah,
but
right,
as
yeah.
individuals,
Yes.
groups are, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. So my final, to like end off today, Yanique, I ask you, what can we do? What do you want us to do to really keep the conversation going and be an ally for the Black community? What do you want from us?
Yeah, we're here to help you.
Well, one of those things is that not relegating 1 month to
Yes.
Yeah.
to learn
Yeah.
or try to understand, but just watch a few YouTube videos that are with Black influencers. And I'm talking about ones that talk about
do you
deep
have any?
issues, deep things.
Do you have any that you could suggest?
There is BNC, like the Black News Channel, Roland Martin. There
one.
is Fox Soul.
Taylor McNulty, I think her name is something. Not her? No.
No, I don't know.
Oh, you don't know her. I was like, oh my god. No,
Right?
she what she speaks is like a lot
Yeah.
of the time is very. I'm like, yes,
And
girl, yes.
It's like you want there's so many different topics or different subjects that or particular genres they deal with, right? So it's going to be a matter of what is interesting you, piquing your interest. Like if it's about like beauty standards, you can look up individuals about
absolutely.
beauty
Yeah,
standards. When it comes to news, you can't just rely on like national news to get stuff that's going on within the Black community. You know, like are you
all
even aware
whitewashed,
that
yeah.
there's a NFL player or an ex-NFL coach who is suing the NFL, you know, for discrimination.
Really?
Right? Stuff like that. There were only 2 black NFL coaches, but yet a majority of the football team are black and not one black owner.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can talk about that with even like in a lot of sports. Right?
So true.
So they call it like it's almost like football is like the plantation, you know, like the players are the slaves and bringing in the money. Right. So even though they're getting paid millions, it's nothing compared. They're the ones who are putting their bodies through
Absolutely.
through this. But the owners are the billionaires.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, watch actual black news content. You will learn so much, right? Oh yeah, and even with when it comes to celebrity gossip, like Fox Soul, I watch like TEAGIF. You there's so many of them. So
just educate. Try to educate ourselves. Don't turn a blind eye. Keep the conversation going. Be bold and open. Have consensual conversations with your black community, your friends, your
look
white
at your
friends.
surroundings. Look at who you work with. Right? What is there any sort of representation
or lack thereof?
Or lack thereof. Like I've even worked at a place and the girl had on a hijab. And it was like, oh, I'm not sure. I don't think so. Was the manager. And I said, why not? That doesn't, well, she may not. I'm like, hired her. Oh my gosh.
Best worker. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, don't just hire because they look like you. Right. Open your eyes and see what they can bring to the table, because white people aren't the only ones shopping at the store. No. White people aren't the only ones that are banking with the bank.
Is important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, well, thank you very much.
Yeah. You're welcome.
For sitting with us.
This has been
You're
great.
welcome. I enjoyed this.
Very great.
I hope that everybody listening, you've learned something new, or you've had your eyes or mind or heart opened in some new way. That you can keep the conversation going and you can have this conversation, because like we said at the beginning, you know, we were a bit nervous to dive into this, but why?
Yeah, why?
Like, that's not fair. Like, why?
And a little disclaimer for anyone watching: by no means am I an expert on Black history or anything that has to do with the Black community, Black wealth, or anything like that, or lack of wealth. But I'm just speaking from within my own skin and experience, from what I've seen, what I've heard, and what concerns me. And equality concerns me, and that's equal rights for everyone, whether you're male, female, transgender, child, whatever field of work you are in. Everyone deserves the right to be happy and live comfortably, and not having to struggle day to day, emotionally, physically, or financially, right? I just feel like we as a society need to share a hell of a lot more,
Do better.
and be more understanding and have empathy.
Because a lot of these situations, I don't want to say issues, but they are issues, can be resolved if we genuinely put aside our own greed, our own like whitewashed minds, and the way that society, like, remember that it's driven for a white eye. It's not here to help, unfortunately. Are other people around us.
Let me tell you, racism just doesn't affect people of color. It also affects white people too. Because in order for the minorities not to get, there are going to be some white people who fall into that as well, who won't get, because you do live in communities with people of color as well. And we got to remember that there is a small percentage of individuals that own a majority of the wealth, right? So, I mean, 1% owns a majority of the wealth.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're all trying to claw our way up, but it's purposely kept away and just dangling like a piece of carrot, right? So we, the little people, need to work together, despite our religious background, our cultural, ethnic background, race, gender, sexuality, we need to look at who really is profiting and benefiting while the rest of us are struggling.
There is power in numbers.
Absolutely.
Power in numbers, and the best way to get rid of that is to divide and conquer, and that is what's happening right now.
Yes, exactly what's happening.
So we need to
Let's
galvanize.
come together.
Run now.
Speaking, that's a good lead.
Yeah. So, you know us at Not in Our Will. We always like to choose music and have a featured artist. And it was my absolute pleasure to ask Yanique to choose a musical artist for us today. So, just who did you pick and why?
Nina Simone.
Skin is black.
Let me tell you.
Oh, her music is just beautiful, 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 beautiful.
It was revolutionary.
Very, oh yes, she was a fighter for civil rights, for Black people, and it came through. Her music represented that, and this was what. How many decades ago? 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s.
Now.
And her music is very much relevant today.
Yeah, amazing. So
Well,
if you haven't heard of Nina Simone, please
check her out. We'll have a little clip at the beginning and at the end. But on that note, let's boogie.
We'll catch you on the flip side.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed this.
We'll have you
Thank
back
you
on.
so much.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.